Behind the scenes, every single second of the day, your body is running this incredibly powerful command and control system. And no, I'm not talking about your brain, but it is just as critical. We're talking about hormones. And today, we're going to zero in on one of the most important hormone factories in your entire body, the adrenal glands.
So think about it. How does your body just know what to do? How does it gear you up for a stressful meeting at work or even just get you out of bed in the morning? Well, the answer lies in these tiny but incredibly powerful chemical messengers.
So to really understand how they run the whole show, we first need to get a solid handle on what these chemical messengers, these hormones, actually are.
Okay, so here's the classic definition, coming from the scientists Starling and Bayliss. I want you to think of it like a message in a bottle. One group of cells releases a chemical. It kind of just floats through the bloodstream, and eventually it washes up on the shore of a very specific, distant target cell, delivering its instructions.
But I really love this more modern take from Huxley. He called them information-transferring molecules. And honestly, that's the perfect way to think about it, isn't it? They're not just random chemicals. They are data packets, carrying vital information that keeps your entire body in sync.
So what are these little data packets actually made of? Well, they come in a few different chemical flavors. Everything from simple amino acid derivatives to more complex structures like steroids. And look, this isn't just a boring chemistry lesson. The chemical structure of a hormone is actually the key to understanding how it's going to deliver its message.
Which brings us right to our next big question. How is that information actually received? I mean, it's one thing to send a message, but someone has to be there on the other end to actually read it, right? And that's where hormone receptors come into play. Every target cell has these specialized proteins that are perfectly shaped to fit one and only one specific hormone. It's like a lock that's designed for a single key. This makes sure that a hormone that's just floating around in your blood only delivers its message to the exact cells that are meant to get it. It's an absolutely incredible and precise system. Now let's check out how this works for steroid hormones because they are super cool. Since they're made of lipids, they can act like these little undercover agents. They just slip right through the cell's outer membrane, no questions asked. Once inside, they find their specific receptor, and this new power couple travels directly into the cell's nucleus, its command center. And right there, they bind directly to your DNA, telling it which genes to turn on and which genes to turn off. It's literally like rewriting a cell's mission from the inside out. Okay, enough with the theory. Let's take these principles and apply them to a real powerhouse player in our body, the adrenal glands. First, let's get a little perspective. A single adrenal gland weighs just 5 to 9 grams. That's about the weight of a teaspoon of sugar, maybe a couple of paper clips. But the amount of influence, the sheer power packed into this tiny structure is just staggering. And when you look at it, it isn't one uniform thing. It's actually two completely different glands that are fused into one. You've got the outer layer, which is called the cortex, and then this inner core, the medulla. Now, the medulla handles our immediate fight-or-flight adrenaline rush. But today, we're going to focus on the cortex, which manages our body's long-term, day-to-day regulation. So let's zoom in on that cortex. It really is like a hormone factory with 3 distinct production zones. The outer zone, the glomerulosa, manages our salt and water balance. The middle one, the fasciculata, produces those crucial stress hormones like cortisol. And the inner zone, the reticularis, produces sex hormones. So you've got 3 layers, each with 3 very different and very vital functions. Now let's talk about cortisol for a minute. It gets a bad rap as this stress hormone, but its job description is huge. I mean, it regulates your blood sugar, your metabolism, even your body's water balance. And crucially, it also has a major influence on our mood and our personality. This one hormone has its hands in nearly every major system in the body. And this right here is why long-term stress doesn't just feel mental. It has very real, very physical consequences. So what happens when this perfectly tuned system breaks down? When the communication fails and a gland starts producing way too much or way too little of these essential hormones. So first, let's look at the too little scenario. This is called Addison's disease. This is what happens when the adrenal cortex just doesn't produce enough key hormones like cortisol. And as a result, the body's systems really start to falter and struggle. And then on the complete flip side, you have Cushing's syndrome. This is the too much scenario, where the body is just flooded with excessive cortisol over a long period of time, triggering this whole cascade of serious problems. Looking at these side-by-sides really illustrates this principle of balance so perfectly. With too little cortisol in Addison's, blood pressure plummets, and you get this profound muscular weakness that can make even simple tasks feel exhausting. But with too much in Cushing's, you get dangerous permanent high blood pressure and muscle wasting in your arms and legs. One leads to dangerously low blood sugar, the other to chronically high blood sugar. These opposite symptoms just go to show how critical it is for hormone levels to be in that perfect, just right zone.
Which brings us to a final and pretty fascinating thought. We've seen that cortisol has a direct line to our nervous system, influencing how we think and how we feel. So the question is, how much of what we consider to be our self, our personality, our daily moods, is actually being steered by the silent chemical messages that are flowing from these tiny little glands?